We've got lens embodiments for the Canon RF, 35 and 28mm f1.4. The 2021 MacBook Pro will have an HDMI port, MagSafe power port, USB-C and Thunderbolt ports, along with an SD card reader. And Tamron released the 11 to 20mm and the 150 to 500mm. This and more after the intro. Thanks for tuning in to The Ordinary Filmmaker. But just before I get to today's news, please go ahead and like this video. You see, the more likes this video gets, the more likely I'm to publish more videos of this type. And now, for the news. Canon News found a patent for the Canon RF 35mm and 28mm, both at f1.4. And this adds validity to rumors that we got earlier this year. There were quite a few embodiments for the 35mm f1.4 in the patent that I don't think would be suitable for the RF mount because the ingress into the mount is too extreme. So we'll simply focus on the two embodiments that do make sense. And here's a look at those embodiments. What surprises me the most is the length of the 28mm. It's 14 centimeters long, or about 5.5 inches. And the 35mm is even longer at 15.4 centimeters, or about 6 inches. I'm curious about these lenses, but I'm a little bit more excited about the Artisan 21mm f1.5 that I'm being sent for review. It is a manual focus lens, but it does get me closer to that desired 16mm prime. And it should be here any day now. In fact, it might even be showing up this afternoon. Now, I should have a video out reviewing it within the next couple of weeks. I might have the Village Mare, but based on us being in lockdown, that might be a little bit difficult to achieve logistically. Like getting timely news? Subscribe to support The Ordinary Filmmaker and help this channel grow. Tamron announced the 11 to 20mm f2.8 and the 150 to 500mm f5 to 6.7. Now the 11 to 20mm is for Sony APS-C bodies, while the 150 to 500mm is for Sony full-frame cameras. The 11 to 20mm f2.8, well, it's going to be available for sale on June the 24th for $829, while the 150 to 500mm will be $1399. If you are interested in these lenses, don't hesitate to purchase them when they're available for sale, as Tamron warns that supply shortages due to the global economic situation and chip shortages could affect supply. Apple unveiled a 24-inch iMac on Tuesday, and while it was a stunning achievement in terms of design and performance, and they do absolutely look gorgeous, it's not really what I need as a video editor. I'm constantly editing 4K and 8K videos, so a minimum of 32 gigabytes of RAM is mandatory. Now, I did check out the 24-inch iMac, and it tops out at 16 gigabytes, and it's essentially a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air 13-inch with the M processor in a 24-inch form factor. They haven't upgraded the processor at all. And why would I settle for a 24-inch screen, even though it has a resolution of 4.5K, if I can get a 30-inch or 27-inch? I mean, I'm not going to be moving it around. I might as well have a larger screen, which is better for editing. Now, while I've been editing my channel successfully on the 13-inch MacBook Air, I find the screen too small for editing video with a lot of detail. It's fine for YouTube, but even with scopes and tools, I don't find them large enough to give me the confidence that I'm getting it right the first time. And some of you may have noticed I'm getting more and more, or I'm making more and more mistakes than I did when I had the 27-inch iMac Pro. The only way to see what the results really look like, and if I've nailed it, is to export it and then go ahead and put it on my 4-inch monitor. Okay, maybe this limitation isn't hardware, but my failing eyes, but I do need a larger screen. Like you, I'm waiting to see what Apple does with the iMac 27-inch and the 16-inch MacBook Pro. I've got a sneak peek of the 2021 MacBook Pro, but sadly, this information doesn't come from a leak, but stolen documents in a ransomware attack on Apple through their supply chain. I held off publishing this story last night, but seeing it's all over Apple Insider, along with the blueprints, the cat's out of the bag, so there's no sense in not covering the story. Apple Insider reports that on April the 20th, Revel posted on the dark web that it had obtained stolen documents revealing details of upcoming Apple Watch, MacBook Air, and MacBook Pro models. And as I said above, the purpose of leaking the documents is to blackmail Apple to get them to pay a ransom order so that they don't leak out any further documents. Now, Apple insiders said that they tried to validate the document's authenticity, and while it isn't possible to verify their authenticity, they appear genuine and filled with deeply technical information. And the information revealed through the documents is in line with what analyst Ming-Chi Kao said earlier this year and reported here. The documents do appear to show I/O from an upcoming MacBook Pro model. On the right side of the machine, there's an HDMI port, Thunderbolt 3, and USB-C ports, and an SD card reader. Now, if this is true, it shows that Apple has been listening to their customers, giving us ports needed by prosumers and professionals alike. And that MagSafe port, well, I think that's a much better value than Apple iCare Plus. It protects the computer from damage by accidentally tripping over the power cord. And I've certainly done it many times. Now, I recently got my son a MacBook Air, and I always charge it up the night before because I don't want to risk him tripping over the power cord or accidentally knocking it down from playing around with the cord. It is tightly connected to the NBA, like you really have to pull to get it out. It's nice and snug in there, so if you pulled on the cord, the computer's coming with it. One false move, and it's knocked to the floor. And the MagSafe port is the right design. It's probably saved me from countless expensive repairs in the past from not knocking it to the floor because it just comes loose. Even my wife a couple of months ago walked by and just knocked it clean off my 2015 MacBook Pro. Now, my Canon R5 has a CF Express and SD card slots. And while I use the CF Express card slot for video most of the time when I'm not using the Ninja, I still use the SD card mostly for photos. And being able to jack in a UHS-2 SD card without another card reader is a huge plus and saves me one of those ports. And I'm glad it's going back. The other side of the I/O setup includes 2 additional Thunderbolt 3 ports. But there's one more thing about the design of the MacBook Pro that's been a source of terrible angst among owners, and that's the touch bar. At least one leaked schematic shows a MacBook Pro model without a touch bar. I want to state right now, here, for the record, that I don't hate the touch bar. It's very useful in video, but I do hate that Apple increased the price of the MacBook Pro by some $300 or $350 when they debuted the touch bar in 2016. Now, while it is cool, honestly, getting more performance, more RAM, or extending the warranty by a couple of years is far more preferable. However, I am glad to report that the Touch ID button will be back on the MacBook Pro. I really love this button. Again, it comes on the 13-inch MacBook Pro. My son has it, and I gotta love it. We have multiple accounts on this because I use it for video stuff. He uses it for his school stuff. And when he's finished using it, all I do is open up the lid. It powers on right away. I just rest my finger on that Touch ID button, and it automatically switches and logs me into my profile. And the same for my son. I really love that about it. And of course, if I'm logging into a website, well, it shows that little Touch ID icon, and if I press on that, it automatically puts in my password. And of course, it's good for purchasing too. So I find that Touch ID, that really, really small little button there on the upper right of the keyboard, provides an awful lot of value. I think that's far more useful than the touch bar itself. I get it, I'm an old guy. I like function keys, and I don't dislike the touch bar, but if I can take that $300 and put it on RAM or something else, then I'm happy to do so. But that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker, and please don't forget to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, you'll get a chance to win 2 Angelbird 128GB AV Pro MK2 V90 SD cards, along with a dual SD card reader. Or you could also win a Ulanzi LED light package with an accent light, underwater light, and various flat panel lights to help you light your subject, or as a great starter kit for someone starting their own channel. And if you want to help support this channel, please use my affiliate links to B&H and Amazon. I've got several links down below, and if you use those links, I get a small 2% feedback, which really do help support this channel. Or you could also consider buying an Ordinary Filmmaker baseball cap, this guy right here, for $34.99 on ordinaryfilmmaker.com. Thanks so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. We'll see you again soon.